All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations. Chief, sincere, and hopeful elect Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai in spirit and in truth. Coming back at you with another lesson. I'm the brother Chassad with Great Millstone Northwest. All right. Ma'at Arabai a lot, which is to say 144,000. Sha'aryath, which is to say remnant. Bachyarium, which is elect. And Echad Shalayashim, which is 1/3. All right, those are the numbers, the category that we desire to be a part of, taking part in this ministry. All right, that's the groups, so to say, that is important to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, so that's who the Lord is dealing with in these times. So a hearty shalom to y'all brothers. All right, and the hopeful elect sisters out there, remaining faithful. So in this lesson, as you see here, this is a video that the beloved elder Micah Allah out in Dallas had sent me a couple of days ago, and there's a couple, there's a lot of good points in this video. Yet one thing that I thought was interesting was with this individual here, which I believe this guy is a guest, and I believe Peter Zihan, or if I'm pronouncing that correctly, you'll see him in a minute. He's conducting this interview, but this individual here mentions something that is pretty much a prophecy. Okay, so as you see from the title or the transcript, it says how drones are changing warfare. All right, so we're going to take a little listen and then edify with some precepts. All right.
Bloody nose was crazy. But the real turning point happened when J.D. Vance insulted Zelensky in the White House repeatedly. The Europeans turned a page at that point. They had...
All right, so we remember that. That was last year. You had Zelensky getting berated in the White House, because Donald Trump and that whole cabinet was feeling themselves when they first got into office. They was trying to punk and son, all their visitors, trying to make people cry uncle. You know what I'm saying? Putting niggas in headlocks and giving them noogies and wedgies and, proverbially speaking, that is. But as he said, that was a turning point. Okay.
Already been providing more aid to the Ukrainians than the Americans have for the last 2 years. That wasn't new. What was new is U.S. aid went functionally to zero, and the Europeans realized that they were now on a path to face the Russians directly, conventionally, in a nuclear arms race, without the Americans being there. And in fact, the Americans started directly threatening American allies. And so they realized they needed to prepare for a fight, not just with the Russians, but also with the United States. And
Wait.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Have you not been paying attention?
You dropped that like it was just,
Yeah, the Trump administration has directly and repeatedly militarily threatened Canada and Denmark, allies. Relations with the United Kingdom right now are the worst that they've been since the Civil War. There was a poll that came out yesterday.
All right, you hear that? So with Donald Trump in a presidential administration openly threatening their own NATO allies, that's causing a shift in relations between NATO members. All right, which pretty much America is being set up as an outcast, which is going to lead to its destruction ultimately.
Today that only 11% of Europeans consider the U.S. to be an ally or not. So we can argue about
11%, only 11% of Europeans consider America to be an ally. All right. So things is not looking good. And we know, according to biblical prophecy, how these things is going to play out. All right.
whether this is a negotiating tactic by Trump or whether this will outlive his administration. But the bottom line is the Europeans believe now that they're on their own and that the United States is now actively part of the problem rather than part of the solution. And they see the Iran war as part of that. For the first time in post-World War II history, the United States didn't even alert its allies to a major military operation, much less consult, even though most of the economic fallout is falling on the allies. And now there's no chance.
He's badgering them. Yeah, he's badgering them to get involved. He's like, "This is all we started it, but it's your problem."
Yeah, American military strategy since it's 45 is to make sure that the allies do not have independent capacity to project power outside of region. We control the global system. You have influence locally. And so even if they had all wanted to, they couldn't. Anyway.
All right. So there you have it. America is forcing its European allies, its NATO allies, to come to the realization that they cannot depend on America in reference to war. Okay. The situation with Iran, is all that as they mentioned, the pretty much the blowback from that, the Europeans is expected to take care of that when that's a problem that that America started. All right, even with Ukraine and Russia, now America is pretty much leaving Ukraine high and dry and leaving its European allies, its NATO allies, to pretty much take care of that mess. All right, that was funded, by America. You've had millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, from not only this current presidential administration, but also, the Biden administration, sent over to Ukraine to assist them in war with Russia. All right, so now Trump is pretty much trying to wash his hands of all that and leave the Europeans to deal with it. All right, so the Europeans are seeing what's going on, and that's causing them to realize that America is no longer an ally, which we know, according to the scriptures, when America is ultimately cooked, it's not going to be in a state of an ally to the Europeans, because they're going to be the ones to assist Russia, and other nations in destroying this place. Okay, so I want to get some precepts to edify on that. And nice, beautiful scripture, one of my favorites, here in Revelation chapter 17, and verse 16. And it reads, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." Okay, so the 10 horns represent the EU, the European Union. All right, because at one point during the founding of the EU, it was only 10 nations. Now it's more. Okay, but the 10 horns represent the EU, and the beast, all right, representing NATO. All right, it says these shall hate the whore, and the whore is America, and shall make her desolate and naked. Okay, because NATO consists of, not only European nations, but also, Western Hemisphere nations such as Canada and in America. All right. So America and Canada are not European nations, but they are northern northern Edomite nations. Okay, because NATO standing for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So everybody that's a part of NATO reside in the northern hemisphere. You don't have any southern hemisphere nations that are a part of NATO, which really, the only southern hemisphere Edomite nation that there really is Australia, okay, and even that is a colonized land, continent, all right, just like Europe and even America and Canada, all right, but you have America and Canada that are part of NATO, yet they are not European, all right. It says once again, I'm going to read verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns, all right, the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast," okay, NATO, "these shall hate the whore, America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." All right, so the EU and NATO nations, all right, they're going to hate Babylon the Great, the whore, and ultimately turn on this place in whatever nukes they have, all right, because not every NATO member or EU country that's a member of NATO, not all of them have nuclear capabilities. All right, now as far as over in Europe, the only nations that are a part of NATO that actually have nuclear capabilities is France, the UK, and I believe that's it. It might be France, UK, and it might be Spain. Spain or Germany, one of them. All right, but it's only like 2 or 3 EU nations that actually are members of NATO that have nuclear capabilities. All right. So, verse 17, it says, "For the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill His will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast." Okay, so the Most High is going to lead these EU nations, all right, EU members, to pretty much come to the conclusion that we got to pretty much relinquish or unanimously come to the conclusion of giving our power to the beast, which is NATO, pretty much allowing NATO to take control and do its will, which that will is the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Okay, and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth, all right, which is America. Now, this guy did say, this individual here, he did say that America is that global power, yet those European nations and NATO and whatnot, they're a regional power. Okay, which is why America is trying to back out of the conflict that it's responsible for over in that region of the earth, dealing with Iran, all right, dealing with the Ukraine and Russia. All right, they're a global power, but they're trying to bail out of the region, those regions, and leave their mess to be cleaned up by the nations in that region. All right, which is in the sight of those nations unfair. Okay, so that's just gonna you know further accumulate the hate that these nations have for the West, for America in particular. All right. So my next precept, this is Isaiah 13 and verse 19. It says, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, the Chaldees were the wise men of ancient Babylon. Okay, they dealt with witchcraft, soothsayers, all kind of reading the stars, astrology, astronomy. On the left hand side, dealing with all kind of wickedness. Okay, witchcraft, sacrifices. All right, just how you have the small hats that rule America. Okay, you have the small hats that rule America, which we know they are tapped into straight up witchcraft. They control everything that's going on in Babylon the Great. They control the government. They control media. When you look at the entertainment industry, how witchcraft heavily plays a part in the mind control uh, that's used to govern the minds of the inhabitants of Babylon. Okay, that's by way of the modern day Chaldeans witchcraft. Okay, so just as the Most High overthrew ancient Sodom and Gomorrah, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah, all right, aka America, is going to be destroyed because ancient Sodom and Gomorrah is not inhabitable. All right, you can't go there and decide you want to build a garden or start farming there and actually expect to see crops grow. All right, that soil is so far gone, so destroyed that you would be out of your mind to think that something is going to be able to be produced there. And that's going to be the same state in which America finds itself as a result of all its wickedness. All right. So verse 20, it says, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Okay. So you got all these Arabs that come here to America, that start all kind of businesses. They took over the bodegas from Ephraim, all right, and Simeon out in New York, out east. The bodegas used to be controlled by Ephraim. You go there, get fruit, you get milk, you get, it was like a little grocery store. Okay, a little grocery store right in the ghetto. Okay, they didn't have the best of things, but they had stuff that would sustain you. Okay, but now that's all taken over by Ishmael. All right, even like for instance, there was out here in Washington on the West Coast, I guess there's a company, a restaurant or a fast food restaurant called Dave's Hot Chicken. And they specialize in chicken sandwiches, pretty decent, me and the brothers went there once, and just curious as to like where it was native to, where the origins was. We looked it up, and I believe it started out in Cali, out in L.A. But what threw us through a loop was the fact that it's Arab owned. It's started by Arabs, man. Started by Ishmael, man. That shit had us like, what? Which is kind of crazy because it's decent chicken. But just going to prove the point that neither shall Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. So when this place is destroyed, man, all right, you're not gonna have these other nations that have came here to America and started companies and businesses and got rich. That's not gonna continue. It all ends here. All right. Verse 21. It says, "But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there." All right, so these desert-like creatures that are able to survive in desert climates, all right, with a minimal water, scorching heat, sun beating down on them, and all that. They thrive in that. That's what's gonna be left here. Okay, you ain't gonna have no mansion. Parts of Washington D.C. and the White House that survive the destruction, where you can still physically see remnants of, oh, that's what the White House was. You see, nah, all that's gonna be destroyed. Okay, it's all gonna be destroyed. Verse 22 says, "And wild beasts of the islands shall cry in the desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged." Okay, so America's destruction is going to arrive soon, as it says in the NLT. It says its time of destruction will soon arrive. All right, so we need, the hate for America to escalate on part of those European nations, their allies or former allies. We can pretty much safely say now. We need that to continue to accumulate. All right, because that's going to bring about the inevitable demise of Babylon the Great. All right, which that means the salvation of the Lord's elect. All right, Bachayarium is soon to come. All right, it's what's the word? They go hand in hand. All right, the destruction of America and the salvation of the Lord's elect go hand in hand. All right, the 1/3, the Achad Shalayashim, because the 1/3 is solely coming from America. All right, this is Jeremiah 50:23, and I'm gonna read down. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" All right, so that's America's fate, man. America's fate is to become a desolation amongst the nations. All right, these other nations, all right, the major players on the earth. You got Russia, you got China, or you got the European nations. You got Australia, you got Africa, you got Iran, India, Pakistan. Okay, various nations that after America is destroyed, they're still going to have populations of people. All right, they're not going to be utterly abolished like America is going to be. Okay, so when it all goes down, these nations that have people remaining is going to look at America like, damn, like ain't shit there. That you mean to tell me it's completely destroyed? It says, I have laid a snare, verse 24, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. So we can see how America is not going to be aware of its destruction, even when its destruction is like a mistletoe, is hanging right over your head, man. Okay? Like, hey, that's funny, mistletoe. You got ICBM missiles dangling right over America's head, and America ain't even aware of it. Because that shows you how dumb and droned out these people are. Okay? They amped up on energy drinks and still high from last week's fireworks celebrating the 4th of July. Okay? You got the the White House trying to do everything it can to prop up America as being this dominant figure in the earth, and it's just not happening, man. Okay, so while they're trying their damnedest to make America great again, its destruction is looming right over his head, man, and everybody can see it, but the West. Okay. So it says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh. So that's one of the main things we got to take away from this, is that America's destruction is going to be a result of them striving against the Most High Yahweh. Right? When you look at all the blasphemous doctrines and ideologies and rhetoric that America pushes out, that is completely anti, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, anti create this whole AI shit. All right, data centers and using up the water and GMOs, robots, or just this whole dumbass existence that America is trying to forward in the earth is really them striving against Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, striving against creation. Okay. It says, verse 25, it says, the Lord Yahweh hath opened his armory, all right, in his armory, dealing with the heavens in those ICBM missiles, okay, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, because the Most High is the one who put the spirit within Oppenheimer to split that atom, and then for that nuclear technology ultimately to be given to various nations, and spread out in the earth, ultimately to fulfill America being destroyed. Okay, it says, for this is the work of the Lord Yahweh of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Okay, aka America. It says, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly, let nothing of her be left. All right, so when those nuclear missiles touch down upon Babylon the Great, aka America, they're going to touch down to cause hell. All right, they're going to leave this place completely desolate, completely ashes, complete destruction. It says, slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day cometh, the time of their visitation. Okay, so all the young mighty warriors, young men that are here in America, they're all going to be destroyed. Okay, nothing's going to be left. It says, the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, our power, the vengeance of his temple. All right. So once again, them striving against Yahweh Shem Yahushai, ultimately, the Lord is destroying this place because it's going to be him enacting vengeance upon this place because of what they've done to the apple of his eye. All right. The children of Israel. Because we are yet this day in our captivity. We're still here, captive under Esau, Edom. And this fool don't think that he's going to be forced to let us go. Okay. You look at, the pride that, it's never left Esau, but it's Esau's trying to revamp that hatred. All right. You see the situation with, Noel, Noel Xavier something, I forget his last name. Wells, Noel Xavier Wells, I think his name is, the cat from Mississippi that drowned. The Edomites killed him. All right, things like that is how Esau tries to pretty much revamp that hatred, for Jake. Okay, and that's a sign of them wanting and wishing that things can go back to how it was when we was physically, slave in slavery under them, shackled up in chains. All right, that's the desire of Esau Edom. Okay. So verse 29, it says, call together the archers against Babylon. All right, that's these various nations that have nuclear capabilities. All right, or any type of missile that can reach this place. All ye that bend the bow. It says, camp against it round about, let none thereof escape. And this place is going to be invaded. All right, Babylon the Great will be invaded. And I actually had a dream about this place being invaded a week ago. All right, it says, recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her, for she hath been proud against the Lord Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. All right, so all that pride that this place issues out and sets forth as a doctrine to follow in the earth, all right, is going to cause this place to be pretty much erased. All right, it says, verse 30, therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, for thy day is come, the time that I shall visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall rise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go. So only here in America this is the one place where from the time that this was written, all right, this prophecy in Jeremiah, that we were oppressed together. All right, because in different captivities, you had certain the southern kingdom being captive under the ancient Babylonians. All right, and then under the ancient Assyrians, you had the northern kingdom in captivity. Okay, so ancient Egypt and Babylon the Great are the two captivities in which you have all 12 tribes, captive together. Okay, so that's how we know this is talking about America. It says, verse 34, it says, their Redeemer is strong. All right, because once again, no matter who becomes president here in America, they're never going to come to the conclusion that, we must let these Israelites go. We brought them over here captive, and the Most High is pissed off, and we got to let them be free. All right, nobody will ever do that. All right, which is why verse 34 says the Redeemer is strong, which our Redeemer is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It says the Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause. All right, just like a great lawyer, you know, the Most High is going to thoroughly plead our cause, not some bullshit defense attorney that's appointed by the government, all right, by the court. No, the Heavenly Father himself, the Most High is our Creator. Okay, and that's who's going to thoroughly plead our cause. All right, that He may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So the Most High is gonna, ultimately do away with these vain Babylonians. Okay, deliver us from out of their grips and take us home, man. All right, but going back to the video, this beautiful point being made that only 11% of Europeans consider America an ally. All right, and that number is going to eventually go to zero. But that's biblical prophecy, because these European nations realize that America is no ally at all. All right, and that's going to force them to eventually come to the conclusion that they must destroy this place. All right, which, we read that in Revelation 17. So, that concludes the lesson. Abarazazah. I pray this was edifying. Till next time, I say shalom.